one of the best laning champions in the game, and it gives you that extra ultimate to throw across the whole team. I'm a little worried now for V3 and the fact that you've kind of said we're going to have a non-interactive bot lane where maybe you could have won. We talked about how important these AD carries are going to be. And then also, when it comes to the team fights, I think you're going to struggle to shut down these Hawks carries. Hawks, for me, come out with a win from this draft.
Yeah, I still overall believe Hawks did have the better draft. V3, I think this might just play to their strength a little bit better, or their recent strength, so to speak, seeing how they can pilot this. But you're right, very non-interactive bot lane. It is the thing we were focusing so much on in the pre-game. You know, it was what we were discussing very much. How is this bot lane going to work?
Right? That's true, right? Because we were saying, look, how can you make your AD carry's life easy? Having a Tahm Kench and a Seraphine to buff you up, it definitely helps with that. So that's something working out for V3. It's a different take on what they wanted to do. I just look at this backline comp and I'm just like, the 3 carries which Hawks have do absurd amounts of teamfight damage. You need to find a way to stop them from doing that, and that you have 2 ways of doing that. Reaching them in the team fights, they're probably not going to do that. So now you have to shut them down early. I'm looking at V3, and I think they need to have, if they're going to walk away with this game, a strong laning phase where they can start maybe having that Jax over Gwen going well, and then also trying to find ways for Unica to impact the game early. Now, V3 have had some good early game performances across summer. It's not really been where their faults of life. It's more been about when they have a lead, they just cannot do anything with it. They look directionless. But I have to track this one. Okay, there we go.
The emote off, dance off. That's what I love to see, baby. So we are getting into this. But yeah, I definitely need V3 to actually be proactive in the early game, as that graph is pretty swingy. I didn't expect V3 to have more than a 40%, more than a 30% chance from the fan vote, but sitting at that 43%.
Well, that's not the fan vote. That's the AI.
AI
right? That's
spike.
That one looks at the champions you have and says, okay, based on the statistical model that they have, and I have no idea what goes. I would love to see what model they have there. I mean, I have a physics degree. I actually spent a lot of time with data, and most of the time, League of Legends stats really don't inspire me. But that graph, I mean, I think I agree with it in this case, but I'd love to see what goes into that. Those numbers must be very interesting.
Yeah, I would love to check the background on that too, because I mean, it's win one game, you get small hope graph.
Oh,
look.
So this is great because like we're just like, you know, we get to this point. It's like, we finished 1 point. Let's move on to something else. And Chris is like, I got something for you. V3 won a game. Let's have a meme.
Let's see if they can pull off the miracle and bring it to 2 and just make this season absolutely insane. It's a tall order. Like you said, like the scaling is not on their side. Looking at these compositions, and Dasher is not making Yu-Gi-Oh's life any easier now in this lane.
Yeah, and this is something that when I looked at the Azir, I was like, okay, you probably want to have something that can fight the Azir, because you've already banned away the Talia, the Ahri, the Sylas. You're not realistically going to have a 1v1 good lane against that. And Yu-Gi-Oh hasn't been the most confident mid laner in terms of a 1v1. I thought maybe with a 2v2 they could go towards it, but as you can see now, Azir wins the early lane, and that's very difficult because now you're not really going to have a chance to shut down that Azir. And even in topside, we saw good trades from Washington early, pushing in the wave. Hasn't actually led to a CS advantage. So we're asking for good laning phase, good early game from V3. Currently, you're not hitting the mark. You're falling behind in CS in all lanes. You haven't really managed to achieve anything with the Wukong's early gank threat either. And already, I know we're 4 minutes in, but I look at the Hawks composition and I'm like, you really wanted to blow a flash, get a first blood, or just force someone off the wave. They haven't managed to do that early, and that is dangerous now from V3. As we said, the later this game goes, I think this is kind of dangerous for them.
Yeah, 4 minutes in, and Yu-Gi-Oh already had the base and TP back in the lane. Dasher doing the same here. It's just, we're asking a lot of V3. You know, we kind of like, yeah, they got that first win on their board, very well deserved for them. But now we're seeing if they can actually step that up, because it's going to be difficult from here on out. I mean, I guess this is like, you know, play for funsies, blah blah. No chance for playoffs, no chance for this or that.
I just want to take a second. Just want to take a second to say Dasher had a really good set of CS under tower there. Sometimes it can be really hard to judge how to CS on Azir at early levels because your soldiers like do like different targets of damage between like the AoE. You got perfect CS under that turret. I found that very satisfying as someone who plays a bit of Azir myself. Just want to shout about, of course, Dasher on a slightly more like a topical note, I suppose. You know, we talked about it a little bit before. One of the lines which I had coming into this split, into summer, was Dasher was a player that was kind of set to really start flourishing in the LJL.
Right.
He's a player that did very well on the Hawks, even when Hawks as a team were not doing very well. And after Aria left, you thought maybe Dasher could kind of start pushing towards best mid in the region. Then Jet and Yaron came in and kind of changed that equation. But Dasher, nonetheless, has actually had a good year so far. I think in summer, even when, you know, Hawks were trying to find form in some of the early weeks, has been a very key playmaker for this team. He's been a very good source of damage for this team. And linking up with Blank, he has been one of the core reasons why this team has been relevant. Now sat here as the third best team. Look at this, level 6, immediately playmaking. We talk about it, and immediately Dasher showing why he's been given this playmaking opportunity. Been such a big starting point for the Hawks.
Yeah, and he can go for those plays like just every single time because, you know, it's basically a skill diff here in the mid. You were singing his praises, saying he's supposed to be the successor to the throne, but others have jumped the line in front of him. But he is definitely top, like undisputed top 3, I would say, mids in in LJL. But yeah, Dasher's just playing with such bravado and such confidence right now. Up CS, just really making Yu-Gi-Oh have such a hard time, and I haven't really seen anything from V3 in this early game. Unica has not been able to rotate around the map.
We've seen something from them. We've seen CS deficits, seen them losing lane.
There is that, yeah.
We haven't seen anything positive just yet, and that is where, again, you know, gonna keep tracking that. And it's a problem because V3 are gonna get to a point where it's gonna be very difficult to 5v5, and Hawks, honestly, if nothing happens, it's good for the Hawks. That's what's happened right now. We have a dragon spawning. Maybe we can track what happens when it comes around the first Herald. Maybe there's an angle for V3 to get themselves a Seraphine ult across one of those objectives and see how that works out. But even with that, looking very dangerous. Unica, I don't think he win this fight. Luckily, he has Washedai there up to help him.
Yeah, had to burn the smite, you know, go ahead and get that early.
Oh, he can smite. He can smite.
Wait, Blake.
I would have flashed for that. I would have 100% flashed for
that. Yeah, that's a bully moment. I would have gone for that. Interesting. Okay, so Unica was actually able to pick up that crab. Good for him. He gets something in his pocket at least. We did see there that Washedai did rotate down for a moment to maybe try and shore that up. If there was going to be a collapse from Blank. But nothing happened. Just a, you know, scuttle in the face of adversity. So
let's talk about something a little bit different because, you know, we're talking a lot about on-screen. Let's be honest, we have set up expectations for this game. Hawks were the favorites coming into it. V3 had certain things they needed to do with the draft. They're currently not doing it. So let's get a little bit whimsical. You know what's going to happen with most of this game? Let's talk about the players involved with it because Kanatsu's on stream, and he is currently almost 30 CS up. That's going to be a crash wave, make it about 20. But either way, this was a draft which V3 said, look, we're giving a lot of burden to Washedai to play the counter matchup. This is a champion which is meant to deal with Gwen later into the game, even in early laning phase. And Kanatsu says, okay, that's well good, but in the footsteps of someone like Ebby, Ebby sees your counter matchup and just beats you. He understands his lane matchup, and I've been really impressed with how Kanatsu has played. I mean, Kanatsu, after coming from Rascal Jester last year and having a wonderful rookie year, all things said and done, was probably our second or third best top laner. You can probably discuss that around the place. But either way, a very impressive debut from the former Overwatch player. He's evolving. You know who's evolving with him? Kanatsu is evolving too. I saw this tweet and I was like, oh my god, Ebby has just made a new meme. Well, Kanatsu has also crossed another wall in this game, and that is the wall of CS leads. And Kanatsu was a previous Overwatch player. He was an Overwatch professional, and he came into the LJL as a very young player, a young rookie, and did incredibly well in Rascal Jester. Spring for the Hawks, though, when he moved over to that team, was not easy. Coming to summer, though, the Hawks have done a very good job of making sure that he can just do his own carrying. Giving him something like a Gwen and say, you know what, you don't actually need to be the person finding all the engages, doing all of the legwork. We'll do that from mid-jungle. You just play your game on the Gwen. And looking at how he can do that, even in a counter matchup, has actually been very exciting to see. Because the LJL has kind of been waiting for a very long time for, well, not a successor to Ebby, because Ebby is still here, but someone that can at least challenge. At least kind of put their name on the table and say, you know, you can actually be another carry top in the LJL. We kind of almost saw that from Ray Farkey, but he's kind of fallen off a little bit too, sadly. And now Kanatsu is this player now I'm looking at, especially when the Hawks have been on this upswing in form, as someone who's really starting to come alive.
For sure, I have to echo those sentiments 100% because in spring, watching Kanatsu had some, you know, choice engages and choice plays, but now he definitely has found his footing, feels comfortable, feels like, all right, he can come in, put his feet up on the table, so to speak, and just actually challenge for that spot. And like you said, yeah, Evie's still here. So like, it's not a successor in that role, but it is a challenger, someone else that people can say, oh, it's not just this show, but it's also this show. As he is playing very well. And this matchup in top lane, like, yeah, they got the Jax counter pick, quote unquote, but he hasn't been countering anything. Still down 20 CS. It's just, there's just so much more we had wanted to see. What should I do? We talked
level
about
6
it.
hit for Blank. There's a chance of a dive here. See that Kanatsu has wave control. Speaking of that lane matchup, Kanatsu has control of the wave, gets to push in. Blank is not going to take the chance. I think what should I with the ult available and just be able to counter strike on the turret. Sometimes it's just not worth diving these fighter-like champions. They especially when they are higher in the HP. Still, just making sure he can shepherd Kanatsu's wave into turret. Blank going to take his own uncontested advantages in the Raptor pit. And he's already got himself that Chempunk chainsword. Wants to find himself like a space marine in the grim darkness of the LJL. That is only this item, apparently. The gold value on this hasn't been nerfed just yet. Reminder that we are on patch 12.13, not 12.14 that we've seen in the LPL and the LEC, and of course the LCS this weekend too. So with that very high gold value still there onto the chainsword, and it's a good first item buy for this patch. And speaking of those first items, it's starting to get them across the board, especially with the Ludens coming out from Dasher. I'm just looking at this first fight. If V3 turned up to an objective, I just can't see it going well for them. And yet they have to. They've not found advantages elsewhere.
Yeah, it's unfortunately a fight or die situation, or a fight or run, like they can opt in. If they opt in, they'll either die. If they don't, hey, they could just attempt to short the CS.
Wow, those wisdom teeth of being they've really made you more wise.
I'm telling you, man, it's all clear. The board is there. Like it's just so much. I can almost see into the future at this point.
The board, there's a great quote which I love to bring up. This is, the board is set, the pieces are moving, so it begins. The last great battle of our time. This is not a great battle, but it's definitely not the last of them. It's a great quote though. Kanatsu is looking for his own battle of his own though, going into 1v2, and he dodges out the counter strike.
Wow, that's such a good dodge on the counter strike. Unika's kind of just going back and forth here. I gotta pick a direction, buddy, as he's just gonna go ahead and walk that off, throw up the cheeky emote. Kanatsu smells what was happening and completely dissuades the
that was your cross map. That was your cross map. That was like, you see Dragon going down, you're like, ooh, we'll do something topside, and they can't make it work. V3, I mean, for a team which so often had at least like something working for them in the early game, this is so sad for them, because all they needed to, the big thing they needed to do this game was make sure that there was some kind of contest early, and it's just not happened.
Yeah, we talked about it. Like, we needed V3 to have proactive early game. We needed Unica to actually come in and influence one of these lanes to get them ahead. I mean, you would think, why should I on the Jax get that top lane moving? You saw a literally perfect gank angle, and Unica's like, oh, you missed Counter-Strike, bro? Yeah, I'm leaving you. Just kind of do some BM in the chat and walk away. But it's really interesting that V3 have not been able to, or not even opted to, like, try to make multiple moves across the map. And Hawks, with this scaling composition, are just having complete free reign over the entire map. It's like, you see Lina up here, he's just like, what's up, man? I'm gonna just warden the jungle because my AD carry is doing perfect. As Washington's opting into this. Oh, there is the flash committed. It's going to be an easy pickup here. First blood, 13 minutes into the game here. Give it over.
It's been a while, but
yeah.
It took him a while, but like if nothing happens to the Hawks, it works out for them. And Rhino walks up there, he has an exhaust, has the ult, he walks in, gets his battle dance into it, spaces away from the counter strike, so it's not a free stun, goes back in for the W. It's just really well played, and this has been not uncommon for V3, where they are looking for these individual plays, but they're just behind on the map. They're behind in terms of where their supports want to be, where they want to be moving. And this is the difference between a top team and one which is just kind of struggling in there, right? It is like, you might have some individual plays which work out, but on the whole map, things are just falling slowly out of control.
Yeah, it's that, what is it? Slowly encroaching boulder on the mountain. It's just...
Wait, have you ever watched Austin Powers? Do you ever watch that series?
Yes.
Do you remember that one bit with the steamroller? It's like, go, get out of the way!
Go!
Run away! And like 30 seconds later, no, you gotta get out of the way!
Yeah.
It's like this, what should I? Get out of the way! No!
Get out of the way!
But it's gonna get out there! No!
Oh, man. Like,
and yet it still keeps coming!
Right.
Yeah, because, again, it's just like, the Hawks have reset in bot side. Whenever you reset bot, you need to be aware that supports are on the move. Don't look for plays. If you are looking at bot lane and both bot lanes have reset and your support is not roaming to your lane, don't make that play. It's that fundamental understanding which V3 are lacking to kind of be this more coherent team. And the Hawks just have it together. It's actually nothing that special in a macro sense. The actual micro was quite nice to watch there. But on the whole, Hawks, this is business as usual. They are just a game level understanding above V3.
Yeah, and now they're just playing the Bully Washidai game because now Dasher has rotated up to top lane, put up his own passive turret, and is now pushing that lane as Hawks are going for the second Herald. It's just not looking good right now for V3.
No.
And it hasn't looked good, honestly, since draft, if we're going to be completely transparent.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as soon as I saw that Tom Cash locked in, I'm like, all right, so you've locked into a non-interactive bot lane when you need it. I mean, I would have done one or two things, right? You lock in either backline access, you can actually have some threat in team fights, so you don't mind it going a bit snooze fast early game, or you lock in something that can affect the map early. And they did neither to make the map very non-interactive, and now they found themselves lacking options and going, surprise Pikachu face. Oh no, we can do nothing.
Oh, man. Well, one thing they can do is make Lina have a longer back timing, so good on them for that, I suppose. As it's just
okay. You are really clutching at straws at that one.
Look, hey, every second counts in League of Legends, and that is at least 8 more seconds they have gained. But looking at the map state at a large, it's just what would you suggest for V3 to even do to try and pull this in any sense into their favor? Because honestly, it's looking like
I don't know,
a slash SF angle.
I'd cut the Ethernet cable and get the game remade. Can we do that? No, this one's rough, right? Because again, like this whole draft is we need to do something early, otherwise it's going to get bad. They didn't win lane. They haven't had early options. This is okay. Looking for picks can definitely help, but this is again a much of a muchness. They find an ultimate. That's it. You don't have the items to threaten all ins at that point. You're losing the 80 carry 1v1. One of the things that Aphelios does is post level 6, you at least have your ultimate for kill threat. Yeah, when you get to level 9, Jinx outranges the Aphelios. You can get wave shove, but you are not supposed to be losing the Aphelios side of the matchup in terms of kill threat to the Jinx in that kind of lane. V3, on an individual level, have misplayed their counter matchups. They've been outplayed, rather, I suppose. I don't know. Obviously, we don't have pro view to see exactly how it ended up going. But on the whole, this is just an individual out-muscling from the Hawks over V3.
Yeah, and it's literally just Hawks just saying, all right, y'all got a cute little win, but let me remind you where your place is, because they're definitely steamrolling this. And unfortunately for our viewers, this is not one of the more typically bloody games. As we are sitting here,
That's
18 minutes in.
One of the core tenets of being a broadcaster is when the game is not entertaining, you become the entertainment yourself. So for that, I could be a one-man band for a bit. Does anyone have? Sam, you got a tambourine? No. Okay. Well, we've got options. Just in case it gets any worse.
it's the Crow and the Mary Variety Show.
So So if you had to do a talent show right now, what would you do? If you just said, look, entertain us, entertain the waiting masses, what would your secret technique be?
My secret technique?
Your secret talent show.
Well, I can fit into a suitcase still. Because I dropped out of...
Wait. Are we talking like a regular size suitcase, a particularly large one?
Like...
You could fit into a suitcase?
Yeah, so fun fact, I dropped out of college and joined a circus, doing...
Really?
Yeah, doing contortion dance, and...
That is incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
That is way more interesting than anything I've seen in League of Legends today. I need to hear more about it. Tell me about your circus act. This is great.
Well, so there's a particular style of dance that is been pretty popular the past few years. Known as, layman's terms, known as bone breaking. It's a hyper contortive dance style, mostly focusing on being able to have hyper mobility.
So this is what V3 do when they Baron dance, right? They break their own bones, right?
Yeah, exactly. They trip, fall, shatter.
Karen, tell me more about this bone breaking dance.
So it's very fun to watch. I live for the reactions because people's bodies aren't supposed to move in certain directions.
To do that. Yeah.
And when I do them, and you just hear that wincing, it's that's like music to me. It's beautiful. But yeah, it's really fun, neat little party trick.
I never knew that about you. I'm learning so much about you today.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
great.
I said,
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm either breaking my bones out of place or playing with fire. You know, it's just it's quite the fun pot.
I would just play Wonderwall. That's what I would do.
Oh man,
yeah.
It's a classic. I actually love this one party I went to. Somebody.
Yeah, that's actually what I do. I've actually been moonlighting as a bit of a seer. You know, I decided, you know, I would take my love for D&D to the next level, and I'd take a level in like sorcerer, and I would ponder my Oblivion orb.
Ponder the orb.
Ponder the orb. I love how just Chris has this on cooldown. Just has it
right.
Like a hotkey.
He just has them ready.
It's like. Right, but I mean, the reason we can keep talking about this and just keep goofing off is like, look, again, we've set the expectations. Now, V3, if they don't do anything, they're losing this game. They've now lost 2 dragons. They've not managed to do anything. They've given up a kill. They've given up towers. They've given up a lot of dragons. This game is not going any better for them, so we can just sit here, watch this game crumble ever so certainly towards this Hawks victory.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. It's been a solid 7 minutes since the last kill. It's been about 4 since the last like actual champion interaction between 2 champions, so that's pretty cool. But yeah,
and one thing I'll say on this is because of that, and because you basically have 0 threat onto the Hawks carries, Dasher has actually felt bold enough go towards Nash's team second. Now we actually don't always hear that on the Azir. Sometimes you play it a bit more poke magey style, just because all you want to do, all you have time for is like a Q auto.
Q auto,
But in this game, like you're sat here thinking, well, if I dodge the Seraphine ult, I mean, I just auto attack. Rarely in the current metagame do you actually see an Azir being able to do that. So that's actually even worse, and that means you have so much Baron damage. You just get so much attack speed from your soldiers. You get to sit on it. Your neutral objective DPS is ridiculous, and now V3 are going to be forced over here. Now, the Hawks are tanking this. I actually don't know if they
Blake,
can tank
you
this.
okay, sir? Only has the Kimthug chainsword, but says, I'm going to fight God anyway. That's not a JRPG thing. I don't know what else is.
I mean, again, so for those of you that don't know about chainswords is an item, like, that is 100% a Warhammer 40,000.
It has to be.
It is Warhammer 40k. And if you're going to have one person who becomes angry enough to fight God, Space Marine's probably up there. I mean, the other famous Space Marine is not just 40k, it's Doom Guy from Doom. It's like, why do I hear boss music? The only thing they fear is you. I was learning that track, but it's great. But we'll find whether this is going to be a grim, dark reality for V3. It's definitely looking like it.
Are they going to go for dragon?
I mean, I think the only reason they get this dragon is because the Hawks have allowed them to go for dragon.
That
is going to be an objective bounty. I mean, you still don't have anyone to tank this, but you have now Jinx and Azir on this. You are losing Baron for this. This is going to be gone. The DPS is ridiculous.
Yeah, there's no conceivable way that V3 actually steal this Baron. And yeah, it's just going to be a trade for trade. So the fight is on ? No, this is V3.
We don't do that here.
Yeah, they're trying to rotate, trying to make something happen, as they did have the inside track onto this tower. Gonna tickle a little bit and run back away. Hey, the squad still lives, but meanwhile, Kanatsu just gonna free tower, free real estate. So
okay, well there we go. You explained what the bone you explained what the bone breaking dance was a little earlier, and V3 have just broken their spines by going, "Ooh, we'll take a dragon," losing the Baron. That's probably going to mean that they're going to be subject to a 3-lane push. Yeah, look at this. I mean, what does Seraphine do?
Yeah, UGO.
Ow.
Oh,
yeah, that's not going to be very helpful.
No, just prolonging the inevitable as
that's just one of the vertebrae just snapping.
Yeah, it's like I've never seen such whiplash before in my life. Wow, that was just the complete 360 turn right there. As it's just Hawks right now, they literally have done what they wanted this entire game, and now it's kind of just like, hey, we made dinner reservations like 10 minutes ago, so can we just like.
So, funnily enough, I do actually have plans after the broadcast has ended. So, if we could get this wrapped up, Hawks, that'd be very, very useful. But I mean, we could literally have sat here and said, "Yes, V3, they do nothing early, they lose late game," and then just put we'll be right back, and then just have the Nexus explode. In fact, actually, G, if you're listening to this at all, video editor, if we could have that, I'd be like, if they don't do anything early, game just ends, and then just have like some elevator music and then a Nexus explosion. That would be an accurate representation of this game.
Yeah, and that was just. All right, Interestingly enough, I loved how all of V3 got into a tiny little huddle behind the Nexus for a hot second, and one of the fountain like, all right, cool, let's go back.
Safety in numbers. No. Wait, I've got this.
Oh my god.
Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne.
I have this shit prepared.
Amazing. 10 out of that's like 1,000 out of 10 production right there.
Let's see who's eating their cornflakes today. Basically no one. Again, we don't do any fighting here. We're actually here for the Zen, the actual the Zen party. Marvel's actually out of position.
Marble, yeah. Just are you trapped in here with me? As you see. Blake, I'm losing my mind here after that dive. Are you kidding me? He gets away with that scot-free.
Again, how do you reach the backline? You've now used all of your abilities, and Kanatsu gets to dive 1v5 and win.
Right, and Gwen is immune, so she's gonna do whatever she wants. Just pulls out a double right here. Yeah, the chase is on. They're looking to put on the finishing touches. V3 is running for the safety of their fountain, away from the bullies that are the Hawks, as they just march menacingly towards these last two remaining towers of V3. It's a 4-0.
And like, normally we get super hyped about the game-ending fight and the Nexus falling. This was formulaic. You could see this from draft. You could see this 10 minutes into the game. The Hawks give V3 an option to say, stop us early or don't stop us at all, and V3 stand there motionless. They are not quite perfect gamed. It is one dragon away from the perfect game, and V3, they found themselves a win to end that lost streak, still firmly at the bottom of